My name is Nora Tran, and I'm 30 years old. Last night, I learned that the quietest kind of heartbreak is the one that doesn't ask for witnesses. Ryan and I were supposed to spend the night in takeout, bad reality TV, maybe finally fix the dripping faucet he kept promising to look at. At 6:14 p.m., he texted, "Mandatory late client dinner. Don't wait up." That was typical Ryan Cole, always chasing the next impression, the next promotion, the next version of himself that looked more expensive than the last. I remember staring at that text for a full minute. It didn't sting yet, it just hummed, like static before a storm. Around 10 that night, my cousin Leo called. His car battery had died at Crane's Bar, a place Ryan once called a boring corporate hangout. Funny how coincidences like to test you. I grabbed my keys. The night air was sharp with the smell of rain on asphalt. When my 1970s Chevelle started, the deep growl of the engine filled the empty driveway. That car was my inheritance of patience, 5 years of scraped knuckles, late paychecks, and quiet pride. At Crane's, neon light bled into puddles, flickering between blue and rose. I gave Leo the jump. We joked a bit, and just as I was about to leave, movement under the sign caught my eye. It was Ryan. He stood there in his tailored suit, the one he bought after his last raise, holding a woman close. Her hair gleamed red under the neon, her laugh too practiced. Sienna Brooks. I knew her name from stories. The ex who stayed friends, the one he said I had nothing to worry about. They were pressed together, his hand on her waist, her fingers sliding up the back of his neck. Then the kiss, slow, deliberate, the kind that rewrites everything that came before it. Time didn't slow down. It stopped pretending it mattered. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe for a second. The rage that tried to rise in me sank into something colder, steadier, clarity. Leo followed my gaze and went silent. Nora? Che. I lifted my hand slightly. Not now. I stepped into the halo of the parking lot light, careful but unseen. The Crane sign burned behind them like a headline. I raised my phone. One shot. Perfect frame. The truth, caught between heartbeats. Click. No tremor in my hands. No second photo. I didn't need proof in bulk. I needed proof that ended questions. Ryan pulled back, said something that made Sienna throw her head back and laugh again. He didn't see me. Maybe that was mercy. I drove home with both windows down, the wind cold enough to keep me awake. Every traffic light felt too long, every silence too heavy. Inside, the house smelled like lemon dish soap and promises that never meant much. I dropped my keys in the bowl he said made the entryway look messy. Then I sat on the couch, opened the photo. There they were, his hand, her mouth, the neon sign spelling out Cranes like a confession. Beautiful, awful symmetry. Ryan's parents, Martin and Evelyn Cole, loved that word. Symmetry. Church leaders. Social pillars. The kind of people who believed morality was a mirror, polished for others to see. They praised me for being grounded, for owning my own home, for being the sort of woman who made their son look dependable. They never asked who I really was when no one was watching. I started a new message, attached the photo, and typed, "Thought you should see what your son is up to. Send." The message ticked out of my phone, quiet as a guillotine. Then I turned the phone face down, poured myself a glass of water, and sat there until dawn painted the walls pale gray. The next day, I would wake to chaos, missed calls, messages, lies, panic. But that night, in that stillness, I knew the story had already changed. He thought he was writing it. He forgot who keeps the receipts. By morning, my phone was vibrating like a trapped wasp. 43 missed calls. 16 unread messages. Half from Ryan, half from Evelyn, his mother, each one a different flavor of outrage. "Nora, what did you do? Call me back right now. How could you embarrass our family like this?" Their words stacked up like noise, hollow and panicked. But I didn't listen. I already knew how this story worked. Ryan didn't like being caught. He liked controlling the version people heard. So before I even brushed my teeth, I started preparing. The first thing I did was set up an old phone in the living room window, angled perfectly toward the driveway. My Chevelle framed like an exhibit. I'd rigged it to a power bank and left it recording. If Ryan showed up, and he would, I wanted evidence that didn't blink. Then I made coffee. The ritual kept my hands steady. The machine hissed, steady and calm, nothing like the storm in my chest. Outside, the morning turned bright and brittle, the kind of daylight that made everything look sharper, too real. I didn't wait long. At exactly 11:06 a.m., tires screeched against the curb. A white BMW, of course. Ryan climbed out of the driver's seat wearing yesterday's guilt and a half-ironed shirt. But he wasn't alone. From the passenger side stepped Sienna Brooks, holding her phone high like a reporter chasing a headline. My stomach sank, not from surprise, but recognition. This was exactly who they were. Showmen. Both of them. Ryan stalked up the driveway, shouting before his door even closed. You had no right, Nora. Sending that photo to my parents? Are you insane? His voice cracked at the edges, the way it used to when he lied. Sienna stood a few steps behind him, filming, smirking. Smile, baby, she said under her breath. She's giving you the performance of a lifetime. Ryan's hand clenched, then his eyes landed on the Chevelle. My Chevelle. The one thing he'd called your stupid project whenever he wanted to belittle me. He walked over, slow at first. Then he picked up the metal bat leaning against the garage wall. My bat. I'd used it once to knock rusted nails loose from the old fence. Ryan, I said quietly through the door, don't. He did. The first swing shattered the driver's window. The sound was a gunshot in daylight, pure, ringing disbelief. Then another swing. The hood, the windshield. The glossy turquoise paint cracked into white veins. Sienna laughed, the high-pitched kind that doesn't belong to joy. She was filming him, her manicured hands steady as Ryan's rage tore through the car I had built bolt by bolt. Something in me went completely cold. I didn't open the door, not yet, because the camera on the sill was recording everything. When he finally stopped, chest heaving, glass glittering on the driveway, Sienna dropped her phone and clapped once. Feel better? She said. Ryan threw the bat across the grass. You ruined my life, Nora. You humiliated me. That was my cue. I opened the door, slowly, calmly. I held my phone out, speaker on. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice asked. The blood drained from Ryan's face. Sienna's phone froze mid-record. I have a man here who just destroyed my vehicle with a baseball bat, I said evenly. Yes, ma'am. I have video evidence. Ryan stammered something. An apology, maybe, or another excuse. But the sirens were already growing louder. Sienna backed away toward the car, whispering, Ryan, we should go. Too late. 2 police cruisers pulled up. The officers stepped out, taking in the mess. The shattered Chevelle, the bat in the grass, Ryan's trembling hands. Ma'am, is this the man who caused the damage? Yes, I said, and that's the woman who filmed it. They cuffed him on the spot. Ryan's voice broke into pleading. Nora, please, don't do this. I lost control. I didn't answer. I just watched the reflection of red and blue lights dancing across the broken glass. When the officers read him his rights, his shoulders finally collapsed. You did this to me, he whispered as they led him away. I met his eyes steady. No, Ryan, you did this to you. When they were gone, the silence pressed heavy and strange. I saved the footage to 2 drives, one for the police, one for myself. Then I sat on the porch steps with a cooling cup of coffee, watching the sunlight flicker on shards of glass. It wasn't triumph, it was survival, quiet and sharp as a blade. And I had a feeling it wasn't over yet. By the time the police cruisers left, my driveway looked like a war zone. The Chevelle's hood was caved in, glass glittering like salt across the asphalt. The air smelled of burnt rubber and something worse, humiliation. I stood inside the door for a long time, listening to the echo of the sirens fade. Then I closed it, locked it, and exhaled for the first time in hours. They took Ryan away in cuffs. Sienna followed one of the officers, pretending to be the calm witness, her voice trembling just enough to sound innocent. I knew she'd be quick to edit the footage on her phone, cut out the parts where she egged him on, but my camera didn't lie. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone cold, reviewing every second of the video I'd recorded. The camera caught it all. The first swing, the bat arcing down again and again, Sienna laughing, the police lights, the fear dawning on Ryan's face when he realized he'd crossed a line he couldn't charm his way back from. I saved 3 copies of it, one in the cloud, one on a flash drive, one on my laptop. I wasn't taking chances. When I finally picked up my phone, there were more than 100 notifications. Missed calls from Evelyn, texts from Martin, and a flood of messages from friends we'd shared. Ryan had been busy. His version was already spreading. I went crazy. I invaded his privacy. I ruined his career over a misunderstanding. There was even one from Sienna, short, venomous. Hope you're proud. You just destroyed a good man's life. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I opened our group chat, the one filled with mutual friends, co-workers, and Ryan's endless little audience. And without a single word, I sent the uncut, time-stamped video. It played automatically on their screens. The bat, the shattering glass, Sienna's laugh, my calm voice calling 911. Ryan's panic. Then silence. Within minutes, reactions poured in. Oh my God. What the hell, Ryan? This is insane. And then the apologies started. Some public, most private. Friends who'd believed his story backpedaled fast. Sienna went quiet online. By evening, Ryan's social media was gone, wiped clean. A digital vanishing act. At dusk, the doorbell rang. I hesitated, then checked the peephole. It was Evelyn Cole, standing on my porch in her pressed blazer, pearls still on, her mouth set in a polite grimace that didn't reach her eyes. I opened the door halfway. Mrs. Cole. Nora, she said, her voice low and trembling. You didn't have to involve the police. You could have handled this privately. I almost laughed. Handled it privately. Like a family secret you sweep under a rug and pray never leaks. Your son destroyed my car with a bat, I said. He showed up at my home screaming. What exactly would you call handling it privately? Her expression cracked for just a second, the practiced calm slipping. He's not well, she said. This could ruin his career. He ruined his own career, I replied quietly. I just made sure there was a record. She swallowed, the pearls around her neck trembling as she exhaled. You'll regret this, she said finally. No, Mrs. Cole, I said, voice steady. I think for the first time, I won't. I closed the door, gently. Later that night, I got a voicemail from Martin Cole. His tone was different, tired, cracked around the edges. Nora, I don't know what to say. I raised my son better than this. I'm sorry, but for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. He hung up without saying goodbye. The next few days blurred together. Insurance calls, police statements. I spent hours at the station turning over footage, receipts, every screenshot that showed Ryan's pattern of manipulation, texts that read like apologies, but always ended in blame. I thought I'd feel better once it was official, once the case number sat neatly in my inbox. But I didn't, not yet. The silence in the house was too heavy. Every sound felt foreign, the kettle clicking off, the hum of the refrigerator. I went to the garage one night, stood in front of the wrecked Chevelle. The bat dents caught the light like scars, deep and ugly. 5 years of work, destroyed in 5 minutes of fury. And still, beneath the ruin, I saw the shape of what I'd built, the bones of the car, the engine that could still roar if I gave it the chance. Maybe that was what this was about. Not loss, reconstruction. When the police called to confirm Ryan's arraignment, I thanked them, then asked if I needed to appear in court. Not yet, the officer said. We'll let you know if the DA files charges beyond property damage. He will, I said quietly. He's not done pretending. Because men like Ryan didn't learn in a week. They learned when the world stopped believing them. And from the look of things, that lesson was just beginning. 3 mornings after the arrest, a thick envelope arrived by courier. No return address, just my name printed neatly across the front. Nora Tran. Inside, legal letterhead. A short note from Ryan's attorney, claiming his client had suffered emotional distress and that he intended to retrieve his personal property from the shared residence. Shared residence. I actually laughed. A dry, humorless sound that startled even me. The house had always been mine. My name on the deed, my money on the down payment, my repairs, my sweat. Ryan's contribution had been decor opinions and a few expensive bottles of wine he left half drunk on the counter. I called my lawyer, forwarded the letter, and within hours, she'd crafted a response. Mr. Cole has no legal ownership of the property. Any attempt to enter without police supervision will be considered trespassing. Then I called a locksmith. By noon, every lock in the house had been changed. The old keys sat in a neat pile on the table, useless, just like the man who once carried them. That night, I began the quiet task of erasing Ryan from my home. I packed his things into the luggage he loved, the Italian leather duffel he'd bragged about buying for client trips. Every folded shirt, every watch, every trace of him went in, organized by habit, not sentiment. It felt surgical, not angry, just necessary. The photo frames came next. We'd smiled in so many of them, but the smiles looked different now. Posed, thin, like we'd both known something was missing, but neither wanted to name it. I stacked them face down in a box. For the first time, the walls looked honest. Bare, but honest. The next day, the phone rang. It was Detective Ruiz, the officer who'd handled the vandalism report. Ms. Tran, the DA's filed the charge as felony property destruction. He's out on bail. His lawyer's cooperating. You might want to expect a visit when he collects his belongings. He's coming here? Only under escort, she said. You'll have officers present. Her tone softened. You did everything right, Nora. Don't second guess that. I didn't answer right away. I was still trying to remember what right was supposed to feel like. That Saturday, the squad car pulled up at noon sharp. Two uniformed officers stepped out first, then Ryan, and behind him, Evelyn Cole. Her pearls were gone this time. She wore plain clothes, the kind people wear when their faith has been tested and found lacking. Ryan didn't meet my eyes. His left wrist was still marked faintly from the cuffs. I gestured toward the garage, where his luggage was stacked neatly in rows. Everything's there, I said. He nodded once, a mechanical movement. His voice, when it came, was smaller than I remembered. You didn't have to do all this, Nora. You didn't have to pick up that bat, I replied. He winced, and for a moment I thought he might apologize. But men like Ryan don't say sorry. They just pause before finding another angle. Evelyn stepped forward, clutching her purse like a shield. My son has been punished enough, she said. You've made your point. Couldn't you drop the charges? He's already lost so much. So have I. The words came out calm, almost gentle. You call it punishment, I said. I call it consequence. She flinched like I'd struck her. One of the officers cleared his throat quietly, reminding her of where we were. Neutral ground. Ryan loaded the luggage into her car, one bag at a time, in silence. Before he closed the trunk, he looked back at me. For the first time since that night at Crane's, I saw something that looked like understanding. Not remorse, not yet, but the first flicker of it. You really hate me, don't you? He asked. I shook my head. No, Ryan, I just finally stopped loving who you pretended to be. He didn't respond. He just closed the trunk, slid into the passenger seat, and stared straight ahead as his mother drove away. That evening, I emailed Detective Ruiz the confirmation photos. Every bag handed off, every minute logged. I wanted the record clean. Precise. Piozit. Then I poured a drink and stood in the garage again, staring at the wrecked Chevelle. The insurance payout would cover most of it, but I'd fix the rest myself. I owed that to the version of me who had built it, patient, determined, unafraid of grease under her nails. I reached out, pressed my hand to the dented hood. The metal was cool, solid beneath my palm. The kind of strength you rebuild one layer at a time. The next morning, my lawyer called again. Good news, she said. His lawsuit is being withdrawn. They don't have a leg to stand on. Between the footage and the arrest record, they just want it to go away. I exhaled, feeling something in my chest unclench. And the charges? Still moving forward, she said. He's looking at probation, fines, mandatory counseling. You'll get restitution. Restitution? He'll pay for the damage, she said. Every dollar. It wasn't about the money. It never was. But still, hearing it felt like balance returning to the world, click by click. When the call ended, I walked outside. The air was clear, the street quiet. For the first time in months, my house didn't feel like a waiting room for disaster. It felt like mine again. But just as I went to head back inside, the mail truck slowed in front of my house. The driver handed me a small envelope. No return address. Same neat handwriting as before. Inside was a single folded page from Cole & Brooks Consulting, Ryan's old firm. A letter confirming that Ryan Cole's employment had been terminated due to violation of conduct policies. The timestamp at the top? The night of the mandatory dinner meeting. It hit me like a second impact, proof he'd been lying long before that kiss under the neon. I folded the letter carefully, slid it into the same file that held everything else. The photos, the video, the texts. The evidence wasn't revenge, it was memory, made honest. 3 months passed before the case finally closed. By then, the winter rain had washed away the last shards of glass from my driveway, but I still caught myself glancing at that spot every time I parked. Some scars don't vanish. They just blend into the landscape of who you become. The district attorney called first. Ryan Cole had taken a plea deal. 2 years probation. A $17,000 restitution order to cover the Chevelle's repair and loss of value. Mandatory anger management. The officer's tone was neutral, almost clinical. But after I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long while, just listening to the hum of the refrigerator. Not joy, not even relief, just quiet. The kind of quiet you earn. I had the Chevelle restored by a retired mechanic who had done work for my father years ago. He didn't ask many questions, just ran his hand over the dented panels and said, "She's got good bones." It took weeks, sandblasting, repainting, replacing the glass. When I finally turned the ignition again, the engine purred like it remembered who it was. Standing in the garage, I thought about all the nights I'd spent there before Ryan, before the chaos, radio low, sleeves rolled, the smell of oil and coffee mixing in the air. That version of me had always been strong. I just hadn't noticed until I had to be her again. The restitution payments started arriving monthly, small checks from Ryan's court account, his name stamped in the corner. I never cashed them right away. I kept them in a drawer, lined up like small confessions. One day, curiosity won. I looked up the case record online. Ryan Cole, probation status active, employment terminated, restitution ongoing, and under financial sponsor, Martin Cole. His father was paying the debt. For a moment, I almost pitied them, the family that valued appearances until appearances cost them everything. Almost. Sienna Brooks, on the other hand, disappeared faster than gossip spreads. Her social media went dark, her job bio scrubbed clean. Mutual friends said she'd moved states, that she was starting over. The irony didn't escape me. Sienna had wanted to be seen, to be envied, to live her life in front of cameras. But the last footage anyone had of her was the video of her laughing while Ryan destroyed my car. That was her legacy now. One gray morning in February, I came home from work to find a small package at my door. No note, just a padded envelope. Inside was a folded piece of printer paper and a cashier's check. $2,000. The final payment. The letter was unsigned, but the handwriting was Ryan's. You don't owe me forgiveness. I just wanted you to know you were right. I lost everything trying to protect my pride. You were the only thing real in my life, and I broke it. I read it once, then again. No shaking hands, no tears, just a steady, slow exhale. I folded the letter back, placed it in the file with the rest, and closed the drawer. Not out of hate, out of completion. That night, I took the Chevelle out for the first proper drive since everything happened. The city lights blurred past in streaks of gold and blue. The engine's rhythm was low and alive beneath me. When the red light turned green, I pressed the gas, felt the wheels bite into the asphalt, and for the first time in months, I didn't look back. The road ahead was open, empty, quiet. In the rearview mirror, I caught my own reflection, the faintest smile forming, not because I'd won, but because I'd survived. And maybe that was enough.